Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. You're joined by Wendy Scott, our professional closet designer at Timeless Closets and Cabinetry. Excited to have her back here for her podcast series. And boy, oh boy, she's been teaching us so much over the past few months. And oops, I lost my camera there. What happened? It's only a closet. Welcome back. How are you?
I'm great, Jill. How are you?
I'm doing well, sweetheart. Thank you. Pleasure to have you here as a staple in the business. I know you've been doing this for over 20 years. So tell us a little bit about what you do and, of course, how we can contact you.
So Timeless Closets and Cabinetry, and that is how you find me on all of my social media platforms, including LinkedIn now, but I'm terrible at LinkedIn, so just don't call me there. Wendy at timelesscc.com, and we're doing custom closets and specialty pieces all throughout the house.
Awesome. Excited to have you back here today. And there's always something going on in your world. How's everything been? What have you been doing? How's the work been before we get started? Are you busy? Is this like busy season for you, or is it?
It's weird. Yes, I am extremely busy. Need help. Do you want a job?
Yes, I do. I wish I lived closer.
So yeah, it's crazy. You would think that it slows down, but it really hasn't.
Okay.
I'm still doing pretty good.
Great.
So
All right. Well, excited to
hang in
have you
there.
here. And for
Thank
today,
you.
what is our area of focus?
So today we're going to talk about aging in place and how to design a custom closet for that purpose. And
Okay.
the reason I thought about this, because I had a guest for today and we had to move her to the end of the month. So I'm like, oh no, what am I going to talk about? Well, I went to a client and it wasn't an assisted living. It was more like an independent living where it's this crazy place where you walk into what looks like a hotel, but it's for elderly. And they've got hairdressers and
Ah,
restaurants and meeting rooms, but each home place is completely independent. It's like their own little apartment. And I'm walking in there and I'm looking at her space. And one, she's had to downsize to go in there. So we got to fit a lot of stuff in there. But two is that she has Parkinson's.
mm,
And so you're designing for them to age in place. That's the
yeah.
nicest way we're going to put their aging in
Yeah.
place. And you're looking at these wire rack systems, which frankly are not conducive to aging in place because she can't reach
Yeah.
or it hurts or it's comfortable, especially given that she has an underlying factor. So, so that's one thing is, you're aging in place and you might be downsizing and going to other places. And buildings like that will often let a custom closet company come in.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to know that, you pull out that wire rack, they want it back.
Yeah.
Whatever goes in is staying there. So you are increasing the value of that individual unit, but nobody's taking it with them. And, their children are not coming into the house or to the apartment and bringing it out after it's been placed. But it's really just to make their life more convenient, more happy, and more conducive to how they're going to be living. And so a lot of thought goes into that. And she's not my first Parkinson's client. And so I knew a little bit going in there. And I did put a flyer on my website.
Okay.
A good friend of mine, Mike Foti out in Ohio, he has innovative homework. And so he writes he's got a news post that goes across the country. He's amazing, whether it's talking about closets or what's new in a bathroom design. He's very informative. So he had done a few things about aging in place. And some of them I hadn't really realized. One, there is a certification for it,
Okay.
which I'm not, but I'm going to look at. But when we talked earlier about whether you're not, when and why you would design your closet to the floor versus up off the floor. And interesting enough, when you're designing it for someone aging in place, it's actually better to be off the floor
Oh,
because now nothing is in the way of their wheelchair, should they require a wheelchair. It raises the location of the drawers so they don't have to bend down as far.
okay.
And even standing makes it a little bit better. So I hadn't even really thought about that because my first aging in place, I went to the floor. But this one, I'm definitely going to be off the floor. The other thing you want to think about is, we talk about hanging and you want to
Yeah.
maximize your space, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, someone, whether they're wheelchair bound or they're older, they're kind of shrinking, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if they have that underlining, they can't really reach. It either hurts or it's comfortable. And they really also can't grab onto something and pull it off. And you certainly don't want them on a step stool because
No,
that's a hip break
dangerous. Yep, yep. And
waiting to
that's always the
happen.
first thing that happens, unfortunately, a lot of times. Yep.
Right. So what we discussed this time was we're going to put all her clothes on the lower half. And if she had a spouse with her, they could go on the upper half, or her seasonal will be placed on the upper half so that then, when her house helper comes in and the seasons change, she can just swap it out. You know, we've talked, a lot of people will look at like the pull down rod, which is great because now they grasp a little post and you
Mm-hmm.
pull it and all the rod comes swinging down to you, all the hanging.
Oh,
Not necessarily the best for someone with an underlying condition because
yeah.
one, it's awkward, it's a little heavy, it's an additional reach, but they also have this new thing out that's automated. So now I'm going to push a little clicker and
Ooh,
the rod is going to come down to me.
ooh,
Exactly. There's also
fancy.
an automated shoe shelf, which I know that would excite you, and I'm working on one right now. You push a button and the shoes rotate around to you.
Come on. Oh my goodness.
It's
I was picturing
amazing.
it more like a candy line, like, like the conveyor belt going around in a circle. You can pick your
The
shoes.
clueless one.
It's
Think
okay. This
about
one revolves.
exactly. Think about Overboard, where those shoes
Oh
kept
my
coming
goodness,
at
Goldie
you.
Hawn, of course.
This is inspired by that. In fact, the client I'm working with right now,
Oh,
her original, I think we might have talked about this ages ago. Her original I made it in life moment was that she was going to have shoes. So we made her one and then she moved.
oh, oh
So
my
now
gosh.
she called me up. She goes, I moved. Can you give me another one? Sure. Twist my arm. Anyway, not the best for an aging in place, only because one, it takes a tremendous amount of space,
Mm-hmm.
but it also is a little expensive,
Yeah.
to nicely put it.
Okay.
It's more of like a wow factor, but it is an amazing thing. It's called a storage motion. But anyway, so thinking about how to put, the pieces into these closets, one, you want to think about where they're going to stand. Can their wheelchair get in there? In a custom closet, if you're in a walk-in, like what I'm in, you at a minimum have 2 feet of walk space. But if you're aging in place and you have a wheelchair, you need
Mm-hmm.
3 feet. You got to think more along the lines of a kitchen design where you want that 3 feet because your wheelchair is like 32 inches.
Yeah.
On the island, also, most of our islands are 3 feet, 42 inches, and they're pretty big. But in a wheelchair, again, they are not going to be able to use that island or see inside it. So you want to be closer to like a 32, 33-inch section.
Yeah.
And then again, with the drawers, same when you're stacking up your drawers, a typical stack is like 4 or 5 high. But again, they're not going to be able to see in it. So you want to go wider and lower. So
Mm-hmm.
it's more accessible. And you can think about all these crazy different things with all that. We go back to my first Parkinson's client, and she had wanted a safe in her closet. I thought, all right, well, you have Parkinson's, so that means the dexterity is going to be a little bit limited or will become very limited. And so we talked about giving her a safe that was fingerprint, and fingerprint safes are by MyCube.
Wow.
And one concern
What was the
is,
name of the
well,
company? What is it?
it's called MyCube, and
Okay.
they're right out of Jersey City. They're a
Okay.
great family-owned company. I love their safes. They're actually really pretty. I have a white one in my own closet. And they have like Tiffany blue, and they have a really gorgeous green one. But anyway, so safes. What happens when, something happens to them? How are they going to get in the safe? Those safes, one, they have a keypad. You can also use your phone. There is a key, and they hold, I believe, 7 fingerprints. So
Okay.
you could do like
Huh.
the spouse or the child or whatever. But what was interesting that she said was as she's gotten older, because she had Parkinson's, her fingerprint can't be read.
Ah, really?
So that wasn't working for her.
Wow.
Now, so it's you really have to listen to your client as to what they're currently going through, what's on deck. I was talking to our good friend Alana, and we were talking about Alzheimer's. And I actually have a lot of Alzheimer's in my family. And she's like, when you are designing a closet for someone with Alzheimer's, you want to make sure that everything has its place because it's comforting to to that person because they always have this routine. They always know
Hmm.
these are where my sweaters are, these are where my shoes are.
Yeah.
Everything gets put back into the place. So even if they're not putting their stuff away, whoever is helping take care of them
Yeah.
knows that it still has to go back into that space.
Got it.
And she also brought up labeling, because your faculties aren't really there often and you forget
Hmm.
by short-term memory. So you at least can see that label on that shelf that will say, oh, this is where my dress pants go, or
Yeah.
this is where my dress pants are, because you're just missing that connection. So by having everything perfectly organized as well as possibly labeled, whether it's the homeowner that has the illness or the caregiver taking care of them, they can keep that routine, which keeps that comfort and keeps them kind of, comfortable throughout their
Functioning and
stuff.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's good to keep active. It's funny. I visited. It was a few months ago. I went to my friend's. She's a dermatologist, and she had this little fancy like thing. She was talking about aging and skincare, and we actually went to. Gosh, I don't want to say it's called a Bristol community. I don't want to say old age home, but for
Right.
55 and older community, but it was so luxurious. And it was like, it was like a suite, the gym, the pool. They have all these amenities. And like I was, talking to some of the people that live there, and they're so happy. Like they love feeling active, part of it. Yeah, you want your own space. And when you downsize like that, I know that could be so difficult. But if you have stuff that makes you feel good and, about yourself, whether it's your interiors, right? Your space, your
Right.
closets, your amenities. It just makes you feel so good. And you should, at this point, be enjoying your life.
Yeah, and you feel independent.
Yes, that's the
And
word. Yep.
that is
Hmm.
so huge to feel independent. So it's giving them the tools for independency,
Yeah.
which is important. But even if they moved in with you,
Yeah.
you still want them to not have, well, they still don't want to be independent on you. It's bad enough that they have to live with you. Maybe they
Hmm.
want to, but they've given up their life. They've given up their home that they built. And so it's giving them a sense of independency, even though they do have to rely on you a tiny bit.
Yeah.
They're, it's still helpful. But again, and then there's, still the same people that are staying in that home forever. So you do
Yeah.
have to adapt, that aging in place because they're not leaving. So whether
Ah,
it's the first floor suite that they move to, and then you kind of make a bigger closet that they can get around in, and it's the organizing aspect of it. Um, yeah, so aging in place. We're zipping through
mhm.
I gotta go through his
Yep.
article really quick. He said, design drawers that are wider so that instead of stacked up, we're stacked across. You want the reachability to be lower, and then the long-term pieces above, or whoever's more mobile, that goes above. I'm going to go through his little list. That's so he referred to that, and that was Mike Fody referred to that as splitting your closet into horizontal zones versus vertical zones. So if you look over on my picture, I have double hanging.
Mm-hmm.
So on over would be my right
Your
shoulder.
shoulder. Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So the double hanging would be the lower would be for, let's just say the lower would be for the woman and the upper would be
Okay.
for the man. Or the revert, if it's just one person, then it would be the seasonal. So this is what I'm wearing right now
Yeah.
because this is comfortable. I can reach it myself. I don't have to ask for help.
Ah, I
And
love that.
that's our key point, right? That they don't want to ask for help. So they want to be able to build it so that they can stay.
Ah.
The other thing with they have all their memories. And
Mm-hmm.
if I didn't have my screensaver on, which then you'd see how messy my closet is right now, you had those
Get it.
memories. So
Yeah.
they probably are bringing treasures back. So that's where I would bring in a personal organizer like Alana and say, okay, I'm keeping
Hey.
these, but these are my treasures. So how can I store them in an honorable way
Yeah.
that they can be found?
Ah.
Because it's important, especially when they're downsizing. You've got to, I think it was, gosh, it must have been 10 years ago. I was with a client and they had saved every single blanket their
Mm.
great grandmother had ever made.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it was insane. You beautiful crochets and
Yeah.
needlework and they had it crammed in a linen closet. And I looked at her, I said, I know you love it, but
But
are you honoring it? Because it's
mm,
not honored that way. And so she
oh,
needed to find a nice way it would be preserved and it would
beautifully said.
be stored in a place of honor, truly honoring that person and that memory of that person. So, that I think especially, if you're aging in place and you're planning for that, get a personal organizer. They're going to help you, or a professional organizer. They're going to help you downsize. They're going to help you store it in a manner like that's, I build it.
Yeah.
I don't, so I plan for it, but the proper planning would be to bring in someone like Alana from OPM Dolls. Um, we'll get her back out here soon.
Aw.
We're going to think of what we need to learn next to fold, and we'll bring her back out. Um, and we still have to come to your house.
Yes. Oh gosh, I listened to a picture of my well, it's funny now, even though my closet's a disaster, and yes, the wire hangers and the it's small, and there's now from the attic last week, Halloween decorations that I just threw in the closet because I didn't have time to bring them down, so it's even messier. But we'll laugh about it one day. We'll laugh.
Absolutely. But what's happening with your son now that he's going to school? Is he on time? And did you set the time? Did he set the timer?
He
And how's that organizing getting him in and out of the house on time?
We have not. We were on vacation, right? Last week we were in Turks and
Right.
Caicos. We have not set the timer, but we had a lot better mornings. Things are going a lot smoother with, I don't know what happened, what got into him. I don't know if it's fourth grade. He's been kinder, nicer, politer, and like, yeah, he's been pretty good. It's still leaving the house, on the iPad and
Right.
everything. And it's like today I had to go to take my other son to go to allergy shots, and he did it all by himself. He got on the bus by himself. I called. I said, "Okay, you there?" He's like, "I got everything done." I'm like, "You brushed your teeth. You washed you brushed your teeth. You did your hair. I'm all done." And he went to. I was so. And then I watched on the cameras. He walked out to the door. I was like, "So he's getting a little more responsible. I didn't even have to set the timer yet."
Nice. I
Yes.
like it.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
I'm
Uh,
excited. Yeah. Maybe it's just maturity thing. I don't know.
I mean, well, listen, boys do mature later.
Hmm.
Hate to break it to you. And then eventually they'll get a little bit better. And then high school, good luck.
Oh
Um,
gosh. Thank you.
yeah, crazy town. We're talking, I'm going through my Mike Footy notes. And if you have the space, one of the things was to make the closet units deeper. So
Yeah.
what's typical is like 14, 16, 12 inches deep. 12 inches is really for shoes, 14, 16 is shelves. And that's that perfectly folded sweater or shirt on a shelf, right?
Yeah.
But if you can't reach, it's better to make it a little bit deeper so that you have them stacked one across from each other. And in the article, you'll see where he's interviewing a good friend of ours, a mutual friend named Denise Butchko. And she's out in Chicago. And she says, well, that's true. However, if they can't reach it because they don't have the mobility, then that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So you really have to pay attention to the client or pay attention to your parent as you're helping them design these spaces of what the future looks like down the road. Will they be able to reach things? Will they be able to access it? Will they be able to maintain an independence? And how do you build that for them?
Hmm.
Um, he goes on to talk about access of doors.
Oh,
You're adding on to these spaces and you want to make sure that because a closet door is not necessarily
yeah.
required to be wheelchair friendly.
You're right.
So if you're creating this new
I thought
space, you
about,
might want
yeah.
to look at the barn doors or making
The
sure it's
slider
wide
doors,
enough.
yes.
The slider doors, the barn door, and maybe it's not just the wheelchair. We talked about my dad 2 weeks ago, and well, he never hit the wheelchair. He had the walker towards the end.
Oh,
So you've got to be able to
you
know
have
that
to. Yep.
they're going to have something, and then where's that piece going to be stored? Do they have a
Yeah.
cane? Where's that cane going to be stored? Um, they're now traveling. Where are you putting a convenient overnight bag for them so that they can grab and go?
And can't be high up. No. Mm-mm.
Correct, because then they're going to smack themselves in the head.
Totally. I would do
and
the
it's
same,
not
no
going to be
matter what age,
comfortable.
but uh-huh.
Yeah, I don't even want to know where your overnight bag is, Jill. I can only imagine.
It's in the basement and it's
It's
actually
in
on the steps right now because I was traveling, so my suitcase and
right.
everything are still just shoved in the basement, not even in the storage area in the basement yet. It's a mess. Yeah.
You're getting there.
I am. Oh, and then I have
We
no, then I keep a carry-on in my on my bathroom floor with like all my toiletries and stuff in it just in case I have to go somewhere. So I have two. Yeah.
well, you need it for
It
work too,
stays on my
because you're all
bathroom
over the
floor.
place.
It stays in my bathroom floor now. And then don't forget, I can't even use my shower because my shower space, like I use my bathtub and then I have the shower where the kids shower, which is kind of what we use. Then my shower is full of bins of clothes that I took out of the attic last year that I have not taken out to like get rid of.
We just need to do a whole episode on Jill. Let's
Oh
fix
God, how
Jill.
embarrassing. We'd walk around like on a fa live FaceTime and you'd see like disaster. But I don't mind. I'm an open book. It's bad though. It's
Well,
bad.
when I headed down to North Carolina, Alana was actually headed up to you.
Oh,
So
really?
we passed
That
in the
was,
night. I was like, dang it, we could have gone to see
you could have
Jill.
stopped seeing me. Hi.
We could have fixed her.
Oh my gosh.
No, Jill, we love
Oh,
you. You're
thanks,
good.
thanks, thanks, thanks,
Um,
thanks.
I'm gonna go through toe kicks. We talked about the wall hung off and making sure that their feet can stand, and again, it brings up the reach so that they're comfortable. And the lower islands, if there is a dresser, even if it's a dresser, make that dresser a little bit lower, closer to like a desk height versus the standard like kitchen height, so that it's comfortable, whether it's in a wheelchair and they could see above it, they can use that countertop without that uncomfortable reach. um the baskets, there are new baskets like hampers, and I may have showed it to you before, like your dirty clothes. Where are you putting your dirty clothes? Is it in a basket they can easily grab and go? The old hampers were actually very, very heavy. And I used to have my client be like, oh, I like that one. That one's less expensive. And I would hand them a basket and say, all right, pick this up. Tell me how it feels. And they're like, oh, that's heavy. I said, yeah, and your clothes are not in there. So now there's a new hamper, which is one I love, and it's got double baskets inside it, but it's very, very light. It's tag hardware. I'll put a link on my podcast site. And it's separate bags with handles that are super light. You can wipe them clean and away they go. And now they still continue with having that independence and being able to do things themselves.
I like that. Independence.
Independence is important.
Oh, and as
Um,
what other things, I'm trying to think about with the space that I'm trying to look at the over 55 community I was in to get a better idea, but I'm trying to think even like, for cabinets like in the kitchen and organization, things should be lower. They should be
right.
it's funny now because I think of it the opposite way. Like I moved into this house 7 years ago and I'm like, why does like the sinks have to be so tall in the mirror? The poor kids can't see it. They spend so many years. I'm like, why don't we develop like put smaller sinks in and smaller cabinetry? Do you know what I'm saying? It's built for
Right.
adults. So I feel bad. They're always looking up at these big counters. Like I wish like their bathroom had like a small sink. And now I would think about it, it should go back to normal. And then as we age, it should go back to being smaller because we shrink.
Right, because so now they're all called back saver bathrooms,
Oh,
which
okay.
is the taller 36-inch cabinet.
Okay.
Whereas before it was the 30-inch,
Wow.
which is, we all like, oh, I don't want to have to bend over anymore. So we all went upper, and it's a hard time finding those lower ones. And you're right, aging in place, you want the lower one.
Yeah.
'Cause I got to tell you, we're shrinking. And when we do our skeletons in the closet
Oh
next for
yeah.
November, it's going
Awesome.
to be on perimenopause. So,
Ooh, that's a good one.
I've got a guest, and we're going to talk about all these things that are happening to us as far, and guess what? We're shrinking.
Awesome.
So
And we
your
are.
ears get bigger and your body gets shorter. It's really horrible. But yeah, I had a friend who designed her whole kitchen, and everywhere she had drawers. And I'm
Yeah.
like, this is crazy. Why don't you have cabinets? She goes, trust me, drawers. But she's right, because she was planning for the future. So it's much easier. The lady I was with on Monday, she had these cabinets and they had these deep shelves, and she goes, can't get into these. I can't use them. Can you put a pull out in there? I'm like, let me see what I can find. It's not what I do. Let me see what I can find. But that's it. You can't use it,
Yeah.
especially as you get older. It's not convenient, and it just becomes a place to store clutter. And then Alana comes home and yells at you. So It all circles back to our crazy friend
Yeah,
Alana, doesn't it?
it does.
Um,
Aw,
yeah. So,
he's
but you're
good.
right. It's throughout the whole house. And I had asked her about the safe, and she goes, "Well, I have everything on this desk." And I said, "Okay, but what about your important things? Will somebody know where the important stuff is to find?" Um, and oh, now I'm going to give you one last because we only have 2 minutes left. This is terrible, but the knock box.
Ooh,
Have you heard of that? Or it's
no.
NOKBOX. So next of kin box.
Okay.
I'll put it on my website. Google it. It is amazing.
Okay.
So when God forbid something happens, right? What happens to your family?
Uh,
Who's going to step in and know what to do?
mm-hmm.
And the next of kin box is this fireproof box. And I highly recommend every family has them. And it has all your mortgage docs, your car payments, your
Wow.
automatic subscriptions,
Okay.
your passcodes to your credit cards. Someone has to know what your wishes are, what to do, and what to turn off. So
Gee.
as you take this little fireproof, it's like 100 and change fireproof box, you're filling out each file. And then, God forbid, something happens. They take that file box and then just go read in reverse. Like
Yeah.
even when my own father passed away, we forgot something. We forgot the his military plaque. Now he
Oh,
passed during COVID and everybody was, you know, no, your normal people that are there to help you weren't around. So you're doing it all ourselves. We're very organized. My poor stepmom was doing a great job, but she forgot this one piece. Now, if you had that next of kin box, it would have been in there and you would have remembered, it's just that extra piece, especially aging in place. You have wishes. You don't know, what's going on, what you need. I always go back to your automatic subscriptions. I mean, who knows to turn those things off?
yeah. Ah,
So
gosh.
what is where? But I know we're out of time. So
Oh
that's
my
my
gosh, we are. You're so good. Thank
aging
you
in
for
place.
watching. Well, I love
Yeah,
aging in place. It's all, we're all going to be aging, and this is a beautiful show as always. You always have something up your sleeve, Wendy. And I love talking to you as always. So let's remind everyone how we can reach out to you. And are we back on next week? I'm not on vacation. Are you?
we are back on. We'll be episode number 21. And I think we're going to be with Keswick Wine, but I got to check and make sure
Ooh.
they're good to go.
All right, send some
So
samples of that too. All right, yeah.
it's wine storage,
I
Jill.
know, but if it's okay, I could have the rack behind me, and I could have a few bottles. All right, thank you.
I'm with you. Timeless Closets and Cabinetry is how you find me on all social media platforms. Wendy at timelesscc.com.
Thank you so much, Wendy. You have a great day, and to all
You
of our
too, Jill. We'll
listeners,
see you
thank you.
soon.
Bye bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.